For the past 2 weeks, I've been in Afghanistan. Now, it has been the toughest assignment I've ever undertaken. The conditions there are simply beyond imagination. And with winter approaching, the prospect is for them to get even worse. Now, it's one thing to bomb from the comfort of a cockpit 5,000 feet up, but if we put boots on the ground there, it will be horrendous. And who are our allies inside Afghanistan? Well, they're called the Northern Alliance. 6 weeks ago, next to nobody had heard of them. Now, they're our allies not because they're good people or their cause is right, but simply because, for the moment anyway, they're the enemy of our enemy. Getting to Afghanistan and the thin sliver of land held by the Northern Alliance isn't easy. You must travel in from the north via a country called Tajikistan, a once neglected extremity of the old Soviet Union. This road has become the freeway to the war. The end of the road is the Afghan border. This rudimentary river crossing is the Northern Alliance's only supply line.
Thank you.
Welcome to Afghanistan. The conditions here are appalling. Roads, they don't exist really. To get from A to B, you more set a direction and follow in the wheel tracks of the last person that headed that way and hope for the best. To supply an army in these conditions would be a nightmare. And once the road dries out, conditions just get worse. The dust is choking. Local warlords control local areas, and as a group, they tend to be murderous, duplicitous, and fanatically religious. Some are now our allies. But maybe this is a quagmire in the making.
Afghanistan historically has always been in war under foreign occupation because of its strategic position. So to fight, it has become almost like it's a national obsession that you fight against oppression, against foreign occupation. And if you don't, you're a coward.
When he was a young boy, Hashmatullah Moshli's family fled Afghanistan, first to Iran and later settled in Australia. Now he's left his wife and 7 children in Melbourne and come back to fight with the Northern Alliance against the Taliban. You're an Australian citizen?
Yes, I am.
Does the law allow you in Australia to come here and fight for a foreign power?
I think the law sometimes is limited. This is a war for humanity, and I believe that no law has the right to stop someone to help another human being achieve freedom.
But you've been fighting amongst yourselves now for what, 23 years?
We have not been fighting amongst ourselves for 23 years. 14 years of those years have been foreign occupation, Russian invasion of Afghanistan.
The Russian invasion was the one factor that gave momentary unity to the feuding warlords. But once they'd defeated the Russians, they turned on each other. And for the last 12 years, they've been fighting themselves.
Takbir! Takbir!
This ragtag group, the Northern Alliance, our side, was coming a bad last in the civil war. The Taliban, the fanatics' fanatic, had squeezed them into a tiny pocket in the northeast of the country. They hold now just 10% of Afghanistan. But then Bin Laden struck, and now any enemy of the Taliban is a friend of ours. Our newfound allies, themselves guilty of murderous crimes in the Civil War, are suddenly very well equipped. And for good reason. As American bombs soften the Taliban, it's these soldiers we want to do the dirty and deadly work on the ground. But isn't the real situation it's easier for you to sit on your hands now and let the Americans do the bombing? It gives you more advantage.
Well, to a certain extent that's true. That's true that yes, we have nothing to lose.
By sitting tight?
Yes.
So you'll do it when you're ready, not when the Americans tell you?
I think Americans themselves would know that they cannot just come here and tell us, go attack, come back. It doesn't work like that.
Hodja Bahawaddin is a miserable mud brick village notable for nothing, except it's the headquarters of our Northern Alliance friends. No electricity, no running water. Conditions here are from centuries ago. The world recognises this bunch as the legitimate government of Afghanistan. This is the Foreign Ministry. Around the corner, a mud brick jail and an ugly parade of Taliban prisoners of war. The conditions are not that bad considering, but such is the corruption here that $50 would buy freedom for any prisoner. Have they been interrogated for intelligence about the Taliban lines?
No, we have not. They themselves are telling us willingly.
Is it possible that these men will be executed?
No, we are not going to execute them.
Daily briefings in Washington tell a heroic story of a mighty US Air Force pounding an enemy dug deep into the mountainsides. And that's all true. But the rate at which they're bombing is but a tiny fraction, maybe a tenth of the rate at which Kosovo and Iraq were bombed in previous campaigns. When the bombs aren't falling, and that's most of the time, the front lines are safe enough to visit, but by no means easy to reach. Sure, competent army engineers could build a crossing here in a couple of days, but remember, the trucks and equipment to do that are thousands of miles away in maybe North Carolina, or at best, at an army base in Germany. So quick fixes are out of the question. Shh. Thanks, old man. Thanks. At many points, frontline soldiers are supplied by donkeys and horses. You get some idea of the craziness of this conflict. That's the Quaksha River, which marks a boundary between the Northern Alliance and the Taliban on the other side. And here's a gun emplacement built out of mud. Go. From my experience here, it seems that nearly everybody in the Northern Alliance is either a general or a private. In this case, General Abdul Samad led me to a mountain outpost a few hundred metres from the Taliban trenches. He may have been genuine, but I got the feeling that the shells he whistled up on his walkie-talkie were for my benefit. Last night it was 21st century warfare as those American F-18 fighter bombers bombed that hill just over there. This morning it's something out of the First World War as this sniper with an antiquated rifle tries to pick off those who weren't hit last night. General Samad has no particular fear of a Taliban frontal assault whilst the Americans are bombing. Most of his troops are well protected behind this mountain. But will the American bombers be there when he needs them?
The Americans are bombing us for their own sake, not for our sake.
Would it be a fair assessment to say the Americans want you to win, but only a little bit, because they don't trust you?
Yes, it's true. The Americans are here for themselves. All they can do is destroy Osama bin Laden and the Taliban and achieve that objective for themselves. What we can do is establish a broad-based government, and America doesn't trust us to do that.
Do you trust the Americans?
No.
The Northern Alliance has a war to fight and a humanitarian crisis to manage. On the outskirts of their capital, there are thousands of refugees who've fled the Taliban. Only truly terrified people could opt for an existence like this. The camera captures well the aftermath of a dust storm, but it can't do justice to the freezing conditions. Some of those boat people making it to Australia's shores are from camps like this. Where was the baby born?
در کجای طفل تولد شده؟ Here in this tent. And he's very yellow and pale and not doing well.
What's going to happen to you now?
We are sitting here. When our homes are free, when the Taliban are gone, we will go. If the Taliban do not go, we have to sit here.
American planes are dropping yellow food packets. Unfortunately, they're the same colour as cluster bombs. The fuel used for the round trip from Germany would cost more than the food dropped. Now this is hosing dollars at the problem and with minimal results. But that's not the way the town's carpenters see it, as they sell furniture made from food crates. For an interested outsider, it's hard to choose a side in this war. True, the Taliban are horrific, and our side, the Northern Alliance, at least they don't flog women or cut off hands. But they do massacre, they are fanatical, and they aren't much better in their treatment of women. Let me suggest to you that the two major protagonists here, the Taliban and your group, the Northern Alliance, are basically one set of fundamentalists against another.
No, the word fundamentalist is misunderstood in the West.
Well, let me put it this way.
Yes.
Admittedly, you don't chop off people's hands, but your treatment of women here is only marginally better of the treatment of women on the other side of the line.
But I don't think that you can bring a comparison between Taliban treatment of women and our way of treatment of women. Taliban do not even allow the women to go to school. They don't even allow the little girls to go to school. They close hospitals. They deny women their basic Islamic right. And that doesn't happen in this part of the world.
In this conflict, it's near impossible to define what will constitute victory. Is a dead bin Laden sufficient retribution? Is it a solution to the problems created by September 11? And if bombs don't work, will we put our boots on the ground to smoke him out? Will Australian troops make an iota of difference here?
I think to fight against terrorism, it's the responsibility of all nations. And I think the Australian government, our government in a way, should prevent injustices all over the world, including Australia, and its treatment of the minorities in Australia should become fairer And that way you can morally bankrupt terrorism and you can defeat them.
It's only a guess, but there might be, what, 10,000 caves like this one across the mountains here in Afghanistan? Which one's bin Laden in, if any at all? And how are they going to find him? A cave-to-cave search? Surely that's out of the question. Never get into a fight without an exit strategy, said Colin Powell. But how are we going to get out of this one?
I think this war should not be about Osama bin Laden, the individual. This war should be against tyranny as a whole. You kill Osama bin Laden today, there will be another Osama bin Laden.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.